Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Paz. With me today, very special guest, former WCW World Heavyweight Champion. He's been a tag team champion in WCW, WWF, IWGP, you name it. He's been a tag champ there. WWE Hall of Famer, Mr. Scotty Steiner. Big Papa Pump. Welcome to two-man power trip. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, man? I don't know if you can see that in the background. We got a little wrestling going on.
Oh yeah, yep.
Dual
What's
match between Iowa and Nebraska.
Oh okay? What's going on with you? You must be happy. Michigan won the title.
Oh yeah, no, it was a good game, and then they blew them out, you know. But did you see the Washington coach is now coaching at Alabama now?
Whoa, I didn't see that. Wow.
Said he accepted the job. So I mean that's what the ESPN's reporting. So,
Wow,
but
that was quick. Saban is gone, and they got a new coach just like that. Wow.
yeah, probably yeah, two of the best coaches in the same week retired, or one got like Belichick's going somewhere else, and then Saban is leaving college football.
Yep. And Pete Carroll just left the Seahawks. So three good coaches in 1 week.
You know, so I think it's not like the same thing with Belichick. You know, it's kind of weird that he needed to make a change, and now they already have a coach in New England. So I don't know, something's very kabukish there. You know,
Yep.
it's like time for a change, and the change happened the very next day. So yeah, it's always like, what have you done for me lately, man? That's brutal. Probably the best coach pro football history. 24 years of, you know, 6 Super Bowls, and then he's shown the door. You know,
Yeah,
so
just like that.
but I always watch those guys because you know Tom Brady went to Michigan, so I was always a fan of the New England Patriots.
You got to be a fan of the Michigan alums. What's going on with your sons, right? One's playing basketball, it's one playing football?
Yeah, the ones playing football at Jacksonville State. You remember Rich Rodriguez?
Yep.
He coached at Michigan for a little bit. Well, he's a coach at Jacksonville State right now. And my other boy is playing at Virginia Tech basketball. They're actually going to play Duke, and I think Georgia Tech coming up. We're going to go see that. Going to Virginia Tech, see that. So keep me busy.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's like the next generation of the Steiners because Braun Breaker, Rick's son, your brother, your nephew, your brother's son, he's on TV for NXT. It's like the next generation of Steiners. It's awesome.
Yeah. So, but they both love it. So that all that matters, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think about Braun Breaker in NXT? What do you think about his maturation?
He's picked it up quicker than I thought he would. Uh, but no, he's you know, but because you know, there's so many intricate details you got to pay attention to. But he was always a fan. Like I've said this before, is he like he'd watch me on Nitro, then he could ride his bicycle over and cut the same promo on me, you know, to me. I was like, man, come up with your own shit. That's all. But no, he's always. I believe that's probably why he's good with interviews today, is because he's been doing it for so long. So then he copies all my shit, so that helps.
And it's crazy because he's kind of like Rick and you combined. Like he's got your athleticism, but he's got Rick's look. You know, he does Rick's clothesline. It's very weird. It's like he's both of you combined.
Yeah, yeah, and he's very athletic because you know he was in Baltimore Ravens camp in the COVID year, which was tough because they all had to learn by video and not too much on the field. So he made it to like the second to last cut. So no, yeah, he did good, you know. And then he got called like a year after he started wrestling, but he was already making good progress in wrestling, so he just stayed down there at the performance center.
Do you think he should be on WWE TV?
Do I think he's ready? Yeah, but there's no point of going up there if there's not any plans, because there's so many people up there now with CM Punk coming back. Uh, Cody Rhodes just came back, and then The Rock just came back. So for that Raw, so it sounds like they might be doing the WrestleMania with The Rock and Roman Reigns. So there's so many top notch talent right now. So it's hard for them to find a spot for everybody. So he might. It's better to stay down there instead of going up there and get lost in the shuffle. So it's always better to go up there when they have concrete plans for you.
True, very true. You mentioned him copying your promos and stuff. Man, you had some of the best promos. I loved it. Like switches on bitches, your freaks, holler if you hear me. Where did like all that come from? Because it's just innovative, but it's also something we've never heard from or seen before. Like promos like that.
Yeah, that the thing when I first started wrestling, they were saying, "Oh, I can't do an interview," and when I first started, that was not my nature. With amateur wrestling, you really weren't. You always had to remain humble. So there really wasn't a lot of shit talking. Otherwise, it'd come back to bite you in the ass. So when I first started out, we were wearing our Michigan jackets, and I was still in the mindset because I had been at college for only like a couple of years. So then when I, became Big Papa Pump, I just kind of like there was a lot of frustration that had built up, and I just, I knew what I wanted to do, and I didn't want to copy anybody else, so I came up with a lot of different stuff.
I
And
love
people,
this.
and and like my math promo, people still love that to this day.
I was gonna say I love that about Samoa Joe. You fat piece of garbage. And then you
Yeah,
do the Steiner math.
yeah, the fat ass. I made sure I don't like fat.
So funny. That was so good. Where did that come from? Like the 33 and a third? Is that just off the top of your head?
Oh, come on, man! I got a PhD in mathematics. I'm from the University of Michigan. And all the numbers added up. Matter of fact, a Harvard professor added all the numbers up and they say, yeah, it makes sense. So, yeah. So I was just having fun, as much as I tried to, have the fans and, entertain them. I was also trying to entertain myself, and to this day, like, I think when MGF did that, my math program and promo in AEW, I mean, it made me laugh. So, it's to this day, I still laugh about it.
So memorable. People still post it everywhere online. I mean, everybody still, tries to quote it and stuff. It's so funny.
Yeah, like Wendy's used it as one of their online promos, and I think somebody else did. So, yeah, it caught on, and it's still around to this day.
And it's great at that point too, because it's like, oh, this, Scott still have it. He's been wrestling for 30 years, or not 30, but 20 years almost. It was a long time. So you feuded with Samoa Joe at that point. You and Samoa Joe had some unbelievable matches together.
Yeah, no, he was. That was the whole thing. I think I wrestled him before we were in the Main Event Mafia. Then I think then we wrestled when we were in the Mafia. So yeah, we're trying to build those guys up. Him, AJ, a couple other guys, but they were the two mainstays.
What was the experience like just as far as the Hall of Fame this year? Because I was very curious because you weren't in for years, should have been in earlier. So what was that like being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame?
Uh, that was great. Uh, I was wrestling in the background. I got inducted to Dan Gable Hall of Fame in Iowa, and then, but when I got a call from WWE, the fact that Bronson was the guy to introduce us was made it all that more special. So it was a good night.
Were you surprised to get that call, like to be in the Hall of Fame? Because it's felt like many years in the making.
Yeah, that was uh, self-induced. I was, after I had went up to the WWE after they bought WCW. You know, I went up there hurt, didn't have the, wasn't as mobile, and then I was pissed off, and it took a while for me to get over that because I don't know, man. But it's never good to hang on to that stuff. So, and plus, since Bronson was there, it made it that decision that much more easier.
Man, if you look at it, Steiner brothers, Hall of Fame, easy. Like you said, Dan Gable too. But like anywhere you go, you guys are Hall of Famers. Do you consider yourself and the Steiner brothers one of the greatest teams of all time?
Uh, I'd like to think we're, but that's not really my choice. I mean, we wrestled in an era where it was, some of the best tag teams. We wrestled all of them pretty much. Wrestled, Road Warriors, Doom. They went, unfortunately, when we went up to WWF, they were going through a bad time, so we didn't have, like the Bulldogs were gone, Demolition was gone, so we didn't get a chance to wrestle those guys. But yeah, we wrestled pretty much everybody there was to wrestle at that time. So
I think easily one of the greatest tag teams of all time. I'm always just amazed at the fact, like, okay, Road Warriors, they're 285 pounds, maybe even more. I mean, they're just gigantic guys. One of the greatest teams ever. You guys get in there with them, and you throw them around like they're nothing. It's like crazy. And even as a fan, like fan then and then a fan now, I'm still mind boggled, over it. How do you able to just toss these guys around? You guys are just brute force, brute strength.
yeah, I mean, it's our amateur background. There's not a whole lot they could do to stop us. They were, I mean, they were a great tag team. I remember watching them when I was still in college, actually, and they had a great gimmick. Uh, but it's not like when we had a match, we weren't going to do what we do. So, uh, I mean, if we got a hold of you, we'd, toss you. So, and there's not a whole lot of people could do anything about it. But we just tried to have the best match possible, and I think we did. I think it brought a lot of excitement to the wrestling fans.
Yeah, you guys always had awesome matches with the Road Warriors, and I was buddies a little bit with Animal, and I would joke around, but like, man, the Steiner brothers used to throw you around. He's like, well, what are we supposed to do? He's like, we could throw them around too, but what are we supposed to do? You know what I mean? Like he couldn't do anything about it, kind of.
Right. No, both Hawk and Animal, really sad that they're not here anymore. I mean, I went to Animal's funeral, which is, that it really sucks, because we were friends, man. I bought one of his cars from like in Continental when I first came to WCW, and then we used to ride with Hawk and Animal a little bit. Most of their road trips were with Lex and Sting. So no, they were cool guys, man. And like it was tough when they're not not here anymore.
They were great, and I also loved you guys when you guys would wrestle the Nasty Boys. Man, Havoc 90, oh, one of the best matches ever.
Yeah, they were great too. I mean, even though both are badasses, they 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 moved really good, and it was a good match. A lot, people loved it at time and still get compliments on it, even though they didn't look like. Let's put it this way: they played their gimmick well, and they were, they're legit guys too. They were. I think Sags was 6'4", Knobs was probably 6'3". So no, we had those guys, and we had a lot of fun with those guys. So it was always fun having a match with them.
They could take a real good ass kicking too. You know what I mean? I mean, they can give it too, but they could take a good ass kicking.
Oh yeah, no, we gave them everything, and they gave us everything. So it turned out to be a good match. You know.
When you look at what you guys could do in the ring, just as far as like suplex and stuff. Is that all your innovation? Like, where's that come from? Because didn't really see much of that before you guys, as far as all those suplexes. But man, we see it after big time. Everybody copies you guys.
Yeah, well, the suplex come from amateur days. I mean, I always say this. You know, Steve Frazier was my grad assistant coach while I was a freshman at college. And he was training for the Olympics, 1984 Olympics, and he ended up being the first American to become a Greco world champion. So of course, when I got there, I was, you know, I weighed less than he did, and I really didn't like Greco, but I was forced to learn it just so I, give him some practice. He need, you got different practice partners. So a lot of those throws was the one that what I learned from him. So then I just incorporated into professional wrestling. And yeah, like you said, a lot of those suplexes weren't done before. Like my step around suplex, it's not done because it's a little different. Yeah, so, but yeah, no, I that was all our amateur background. Then of
What about
course I do my other stuff like Frankensteiner, Steiner screwdriver, and then I was the first one to do that 450 splash too back in 1987. So, but it was different back then. You couldn't land, you couldn't hurt anybody. So I didn't like the way I landed. So I only did it one time when I was wrestling for Dick the Bruiser. So look it up, Google it, man.
yeah,
1980 450
it's
splash.
on it's on YouTube. It's amazing. It's like, oh my god, how could a guy that big do that move? It's nuts.
Yeah, and now you see guys when they do this 450 splash, just land on the guy. It's like, I mean, I couldn't do that at 250, 260 pounds. So had to hit my feet first, and then when I watched it back, I really didn't like it. So that was the first and only time I used it.
And you used to
And
do this awesome thing. It was like almost like a sack of shit toss, but you wouldn't throw the guy over. You would literally hold on to him and flip over, standing flip with the guy and land.
yeah, I did that. I did it a lot. And then I started, sometimes I land on the top of my head, So after doing that a few times, I stopped doing that. I mean, I actually did it off the second rope one time. So, but uh, yeah, a lot of stuff. I was just trying to be innovative, doing something different, anything to stand out.
Yeah, the Frankensteiner. God, everybody remembers that was the best. My favorite's probably the Steiner screwdriver. I love that. The height and then boom.
Yeah, it definitely looked devastating. So, but as far as the Frankenstein, a lot of some people call it the Hurricane Rana, which is, you know, that's always because bullshit. Mike Tenay came from Mexico, so like it started there. Bullshit, man. If you can find a Frankensteiner before I did it, you show me videotape because the Frankensteiners when I throw them off the rope, come back, jump up, and flip them over. That's Frankensteiner. So it was never done before, and so prove me wrong. Because
And,
other people try to take credit for something, but luckily everything is on tape.
and the way you did it was devastating. The way the Mexican wrestlers do it, the luchadors do it, it's almost like they're just turning the guy over. Yours was like a spike. Yours was devastating.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the difference. Is I throw them off. I threw them off the ropes, and they came running back at me, and I jumped up and flipped them over. So, uh, you know, and people, loved it. So, which is great. It's always good to do something that people love.
Yeah, definitely. I was just talking to Kevin Sullivan, the Taskmaster, and we were talking about when you wrestled the Giant on Nitro, and he said he was yelling at the Giant in the back because you suplexed him, and he said not to let you suplex him, and the Giant said to him, he goes, "Well, what am I going to do?" He goes, "He just suplexed me." He goes, "I couldn't do anything. Like he tried to grab the rope. You just, do you remember that? You literally just, and he's got to be at least 450. I mean, you just suplexed him like he was nothing, like a sack of potatoes."
Right? No, I mean, he was huge, but once you get your hips on him, you can throw him, and that's what I did. Like actually, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to throw them. So, but yeah, I just reached in there, put my hips up, and just tossed them.
So Sullivan never said anything to you. He said something to the giant, but he never said anything to you to not to do it.
I didn't say nothing to me. It's my wrestling style. What would you want me to do? Arm drag him?
I know. I love it because he's like stunned that you did it. Like, you know what I mean? But of course, he's going to do it. He's
Right,
not big enough, right? Nobody's big enough where you can't pick him up, right?
right. So, yeah.
Like, because I
So,
remember Vader and Bigelow in Japan, you picked them up like they were nothing. So, I mean, nobody's too big.
right. I mean, they were Bam Bam and yeah, and Big Bam Vader. They were huge. We had a good match with those guys in Japan. So, I mean, that was a good time. The funny thing about that was like we're both on opposite sides of the arena, and then something happened where Vader, started feeling his oats, and he said, "Well, all right, let's call it out there." And it's like, "All right, sounds good with us." And the thing is, my brother was with Brad Reinekens when Vader came through the camp, so you know, Vader did. Vader knew he you know, couldn't hack, put it that way. But
Yeah,
we
you
had
guys.
it was over in Japan, and so was Bam Bam. So yeah, we had a good match with those guys.
Yeah, just you guys against anybody was awesome. Just because you guys are like the legit shooters. I mean, you guys, it looked like you could kill anybody you guys wanted to at any point. Not that you would, but it just looked like it. Just I love that style, that shoot style.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was our ambition to not look like anybody else.
Did you ever hurt anybody as far as like wrestling? That's not because you're throwing guys around. Ever anybody get hurt or anything?
No, the only guys that might have got uh, knocked up a little bit is probably the enhancement guys, job guys. But that ain't our fault because a lot of them were just guys going through training camps, and a lot of them couldn't chew and eat gum at the same time.
Because I talked to
Chew and eat gum or chew and walk at the same time.
right, right. I can't do both. Yeah. Uh, I was talking to PJ Walker, just incredible, who wrestled you guys, God, in 1992, 1993, early on, and Tony DeVito. I said, man, those guys, they killed you guys, this and that. He said, no, not at all. And I was shocked. He said, it looked like it, but he goes, we didn't, he's like, not anything. But obviously, those two guys can actually work.
Right. No, there's a fine line to actually, hurting somebody or making it look like I hurt you. And that's the whole key of wrestling, because, in a split second, we could turn it around where we would drive you into the mat and hurt you. But we wouldn't do that, but that's not what you portray to the people.
But it looked like it would, which is awesome, which is
Yeah,
the key.
trust me, everything in wrestling, when you hit the mat, hurts. It's like a slam hurts, backdrop hurts. I mean, it doesn't feel good. So, uh, but you just, it's what you had to do.
Now the Big Papa Pump gimmick, I love this gimmick. It's awesome. Where does that actually come from? Like when you become Big Papa Pumping and step away from Scott Steiner, the Steiner brother.
Right. Well, I knew that, we had been that tag team for so long. We had wrestled everybody, and we were popular. I knew I had to do a drastic change from what I was, with the black hair and mullet. Otherwise, people would see me as the same. So that's when as soon as I turned on my brother, we were in California. The next day, the next morning, I went to a salon and, you know, bleached my hair, bleached my goutee, and then I showed up. And when I showed up, believe it or not, a whole lot of people didn't recognize me. And a lot of the announcers didn't recognize me either because I didn't really tell anybody I was going to do it. The only one person that knew was I ran it by Eric Bischoff. So yeah, it's just something I changed the way I looked. I changed my wrestling style. I changed what I did in the ring. A lot of people say, "Oh, you got too big. You couldn't do the Frankenstein no more." No, I did it. I could do the Frankenstein. I just didn't want to do it because I didn't want people to cheer me because it was a fairly popular move. So I basically just, uh, changed my style to ground and pound. So
Smart psychology. You want to get booed.
yeah, I mean that's I was paid to be a heel, and if you're not getting booed as a heel, you're not doing your job. So that's one thing I wanted, and I being a heel is because I totally had to change because Scott and Kevin, they were kind of like the cool heels, and it's like everybody else had their own style. I had to go far right to everybody else, and that's what I did. I think I was pretty successful at it. It's not paving my own way.
And I feel like when you were WWE champion, awesome run, but it was towards the end of WWE. That was the only downfall. You almost should have been champion sooner rather than later, just because that gimmick was awesome. You were so over as a heel. It was just Big Papa Pump was probably one of the best things in WCW at that point.
Yeah, and that goes back to politics. It's like yeah, probably a year before that, I felt that I was ready, and the fact that I kept on having to wait, kind of like that's where a lot of the anger, a lot of when I was pissed off, it kind of showed on my interviews and stuff. I came out like a wild man because I was frustrated. So, and the people could tell I was frustrated. I think that came through in my interviews, but it was actually the way I felt backstage. You get tired of you know getting the thumb put on you. So that was pretty much real when they saw me on TV. I think people could relate to that.
So shoot promos almost a little bit. Like you were just kind of shooting at the hip, saying what you wanted to say.
Well, I talked to Terry Funk. He was in WCW when I was there, and he used to tell me all the time. He said, "Man, I hated Dusty. I mean, I was good friends with Dusty Rhodes, but I called him everything like they could to make the people think that we weren't friends." You know, and he said, "You do what you got to do to blur that line to make sure people don't think that you guys are friends or anything." And so I always took that to heart, because back in the day when I was uh, wrestling, it was hard to get information from the older veterans. And Terry is such a great guy that, and of course, him and his brother wrestled together also, so it was kind of like a kinship there, So no, he was very helpful in what he told me. So
And you and him have that same philosophy, crazy like a fox.
yeah, yeah. So and he was one of the best. So not a bad guy to listen to.
For sure. Got to mention though, one of my favorite matches, Fall Brawl 2000, and I don't know if a lot of people have seen it, but they should go out of their way to see it. You versus Goldberg. It's by far his best match. I mean, it's not even close. It's by far. You guys just destroy each other. That's I don't know if you remember as fondly as I do, but you versus Goldberg, one of my favorite matches of his and yours.
Yeah, eh, uh, when most athletes, that played college and or played pro like Bill did, there's a certain amount of respect that you have because if you think about it, it's really hard to get a college scholarship. So there's a certain amount of respect for guys that actually played sports. I would say more so than anybody that somebody else that gets into wrestling. So we had a certain amount of respect for everybody, and and I knew what kind of match that we had to have, and it was basically we had to beat the shit out of each other. And that during that match is when I wore the tough Kevlar mask because leading up to that match, he actually hit me in the eye socket and broke my orbital. The thing about that was we were in the ring. He just punched me with the right, punched me with the right. I said punch, hit me with the right, and all of a sudden it hits me with the left. So as I was going this way, it was going directly into his punch, and it just, bad timing. I broke my orbital. So, but
Great
no,
match.
yeah, no, people like that action packed, beat the shit out of each other style.
The Steiner brothers were the best. As we head for the finish here, we'll wind it down. Just, do you have other favorite matches, or does this not really exist like favorite matches for the guys?
Yeah, usually when you're at that level, you can have pretty much good matches with everybody. But I think anytime that, like, the favorite matches when they won a world title, won a world tag team titles, or when we went over to Japan and won the New Japan Pro Wrestling titles, or uh, or like when you wrestle in front of the largest attended festival in North Korea, where it was
Oh yeah.
185,000, 3 nights in a row. I mean, that was an amazing experience. And of course, there's everybody seemed to like that. But the match we have with Lex Luger and Sting, they seem to always like the matches against Doom, like you said, Nasty Boys. So yeah, those matches will stick out. But you got to remember, back in the day when we first started, on our contract it said 350 days a year. So a lot of those towns, and a lot of those days, and then all those weeks kind of run together. So really, like the main, when you're matched up against a formidable opponent, those are kind of the matches you remember.
And my favorite WWF match is you guys versus Owen Hart and Bret Hart, part of WrestleFest. Just
Yeah,
unbelievable.
yeah, a, that was kind of like sprung on all four of us. I think we were in North Carolina, and there was no plan, there was no setup. They just came up to us, and I think they were doing it for home videos or something for their network. And they just threw that match out there. So we did what we did, and of course, they were brothers, and they were great a tag team too. So yeah, we had a good match. I mean, I think it could have been better if we actually could have planned for it, and had at least somebody tell us it like a day or two before. But yeah, as soon as we got there, it was like sprung on us. So we did what we did, and so people still loved it. But I always thought it could have been better.
And
You
that
always
Steiner
you always think a match could be better.
and that Steiner screwdriver on Owen is the best. That's the best one, I think.
Oh yeah. Well, the one I did in Hase and
Oh
Russell in the
yes.
Hase, Georgia. I mean Tokyo Dome. That one looked good too. But yeah, no. Owen was. I used to room with Owen on the road, and my brother and I and him, and sometimes it would be Lex when he wasn't on that Lex Express. Uh, so Owen was a good friend. So yeah, he of course he was a great wrestler too. So no, he took it great.
Everyone always says Owen Hart's the best ribber, but from all the stories I hear from Dr. Tom, from Disco Inferno, all these guys, you and Rick are the best ribbers. Knocking Disco off of the whatever the little the little boat thing, knocking him off.
Jet ski.
Just all these.
Oh, he's a jet ski, and he
Yeah,
called me a
yeah.
bully. How can you call me a bully? They're both my jet skis were mine, and it's not like we did it one time. That was what are we going to do? Just go out on the lake and just hold hands and ride the jet skis, look at fish, and I mean, what the hell do you expect? I tried to knock him off, and that was the best part of it because when you knocked him off, you just kept on going around him, and I mean, it was hard as hell trying to get back up on it. It's like I did the same thing to my brother. Knock him off, and then kept on swimming around. Go almost try to drown him, take him to that point, and then all right, get back out on the jet ski, and then do it all over. And Disco calls me a bully. He's like, man, shut the hell up, man. Both my jet skis were having fun. So, but yeah,
Oh,
no, that was, you know, seriously, what were we going to do? Like lounge around today? Hey, look at a fish over there. Hey, seriously, you're riding jet skis. You're going to have fun.
uh, that one is awesome. Tying up guys to chairs and throwing them out. Just awesome. You guys are like, I don't know, the best. Like if I wish I was around in that era to hang out with you guys. You guys were awesome. I love
Oh,
ribs like that.
that thing with tying up was, we let, I said, I told the story before, was, you know, Sags and Knobs, they needed to borrow a car one night. They were going to go out, and we weren't going out. So yeah, take the car. So I woke up the next morning, went to jump in the car. They put peanut butter on our steering wheel, and they put powder in the air conditioning. So when we jump, go to drive it, our hands are all sticky. You turn the AC and smoke. The powder goes all of us. So when we get to the arena, we see both those guys. We tape them up, and it's like the show starts at 8 o'clock. This is like 7 o'clock, 7:30, 7:50. So we tape them both up. My brother always carry a knife, cut his clothes off, and we threw him out in the arena. It wasn't a pretty sight,
uh,
see badasses flaying around like two fat, blubbering walruses. They started something, we finished it, but it
so
was all
good.
all having fun.
So good. Your brother shot 1, 2, 3 kid.
Yeah, we were having fun. Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah, your brother shot 1, 2, 3 kid with the gun or whatever. He was really getting shot.
Oh yeah, no, we always did that, and we did that in college. Yeah, we had a shotgun, and you take out all the pellets. And one time, my buddy in college, we lived in a upper part of a two-story house, and he knocks on the door, and we knew he was coming, so we turned all the lights off. He opened the door. He's called both our names. All of a sudden, he comes in. All of a sudden, my brother racks the gun, shoots him. And of course, that wad still comes out. So the wad came out, hit him in the chest, and he went down like he had really been hit with a bullet. He was going, "Why?"
That's awesome.
Stuff like that.
That's great. And the best thing about you guys is like, okay, you're legit tough guys, but you love to have fun. You love to rib it, fool around and stuff like that. Like I love those kind of guys. So I just mentioned to Haku, I said, "Oh, who's like a legit guy?" And he said Barbarian and the Steiner brothers. So I said the Barbarian, who's a legit guy. He said Haku and the Steiner brothers. It's funny, like those guys who everyone is afraid of. We're kind of saying you guys should be the ones everybody should be afraid of.
Well, see, I've never saw a Haku fight. My brother has, and he said, "Yeah, no, he's legit." And both those guys are huge, but they. There's one thing about if you watch the UFC right now, like most of the domination is by amateur wrestlers. Uh, once they learn striking that, like a lot of those guys that were champions, like you know Mark Coleman. Uh, uh, I can't think of his name right now. I just saw him. The one
Mark
who had,
Kirk and Shamrock.
no. I wrestled him in college. Uh, One of the big mustache. He was
Oh, Dan
actually
Severn.
no,
Don
not him.
Fry. Don
Don,
Fry.
I wrestled Don Fry in college, according to him. Uh, so yeah, like those guys are champions, and then afterwards, a lot of people that were wrestlers, like Khabib, he was wrestler, and like most of those guys that wrestled, they could take care of themselves. So uh, yeah, I was afraid of, after wrestling in college and wrestling against the Olympic champion, I wasn't worried about too much. But yeah, no, Haku and Barbarian were tough. But in reality, it's hard to find a Samoan that isn't tough. I mean, they're just they're a different breed of cat. They're uh, yeah. I mean, but in reality, there's different levels of toughness because anybody that's in wrestling has to be a certain amount of has to have a certain amount of toughness because it's a tough way to make a living. So, but then there's different levels, and of course, Haku and Barbarian, they were at the top of the food chain. So I'll
I
take
love
it.
that they. Yeah, I was gonna say I love that they're throwing you guys out there, like saying that you guys are tougher than them. But I love that kind of stuff because it's just maybe a little humbleness on their part, but that just shows you what they think of you guys.
Oh yeah, no, they were legit strong and legit tough, and it was I've wrestled them both, and it was great. It's like, and I still see those guys today, and it's I was glad I was friends with those guys because they're legit people.
Now, if somebody said the legacy of Scott Steiner, what is it? Like Big Papa Pump, the Steiner brothers, the collegiate career, everything. Well, what would you say is the stamp of the legacy if somebody's like kind of looking back and thinking about Scott Steiner?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was just trying to be innovative, coming up with those signature moves that I have that are still replicated today. So, but I was just, just, when I got into professional wrestling, like when I was in college, I had the best time of my life, and I was like, man, there's no way I could duplicate my days in college. But man, when I got into professional wrestling, I was far surpassed the times I had in college. So I just made sure I just want to have a good time and then go hard every night. And I never took a day off. So and I always tried to have the best match. And whether I did or not, I was still always striving to do that. So uh, it's really not my place to say where I should be. It's to say that's for other people. And if I'm remembered, I'm glad that people remember and appreciate what I did. That's why I like going to these Comic Cons and wrestling conventions because it gives a chance for me to talk to the fans that the people, the matches and stuff that they really liked and what happened when. Would you do the, why'd you do this and stuff like that. So uh, it's great to be remembered.
Absolutely. One of the best, one of the all-time best, the Steiner brothers. And if anybody did want to book you, email classbookings85@gmail.com. That's classbookings85@gmail.com. Extra the legendary Tony Hunter. You could book not only Scott, but Rick of the Steiner brothers as well. So hit up Tony Hunter, classbookings85@gmail.com.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything
Tony does all my books.
anything else as far as social media where you want people to find you? Instagram, Twitter, anything like that?
Man, I can't do that stuff, man. I, I'm pretty much a private person, anyways. So I can't go on social media every day. It would drive me nuts. So yeah, I don't. I started up a Twitter page, you know, maybe a couple about 5, 10 years ago, and it's like, but there was a purpose to that. But yeah, I really like I tweeted about the Michigan win and stuff like that, but it's like I don't know, man. This this phone contraption is like I'm still not sure if it's going to catch on.
Where can everybody follow you?
Well, on Twitter, it's uh, I believe it's Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner.
Okay. We gotta hear about that Michigan win again. That was awesome. 15-0. What a season for the Wolverines.
Yeah, and that bullshit about cheating, man, it's stealing signs. You kidding me? Are we playing Pee Wee football now? You can't change your signs. I'm like, come on.
Unbelievable. I think
Yeah,
that motivated Michigan though. Michigan versus everybody. That pissed them off.
yeah,
You know, come on, that's such panty Annie bullshit. That really motivated them.
yeah. I believe it did, and it's like it goes back to like sometimes you know people push you to a certain point, and then you get pissed off, and it's us against the world. So I think there's something to that, and so yeah, they came out. Cream always rises to the top, man. And plus the fact that Michigan is holds the most victories in college football history. and they have the largest football state in the world. So Michigan, the champions of the West, man.
Hail, hail to the victors, champions of the world now, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So,
All right, Scott, thank you. Thank you so much for all the time today. Really appreciate it.
oh yeah, no, thanks for having me, man.